Welcome. Welcome to another episode of Almond Delights Reading Corner. Relax, kick up your feet as we get into this week's read. Tonight we'll be reading Loving Topaz, a novella by James Colwell. Head on over to Amazon.com and download your books today. Come and support our authors. But we're going to get into this book. Loving Topaz. Tell a friend to tell a friend and then tell their friends. We over here reading, y'all. But let's get into this book. Are you ready? Shh. Hi, and welcome to another episode of Almond Delights Reading Corner. We are back for our last read of Loving Topaz, a novella by yours truly, Mr. James Colwell. I am your reader tonight, Miss Almond Brown. Welcome back, you guys. Welcome back. Sorry about last week. Don't judge me. Life. But we're going to get it started. But before I start, let me go ahead and put a disclaimer out there. Heavy on the disclaimer. There will be cussing and other adult content going on in this book. It will be some of the things that Almond Brown might not normally talk about. But then again, we have a red light special. So just have y'all disclaimer, honey. But the book is good. And what else? I was going to tell y'all something else, but I forgot. Anywho, thank y'all very much for the compliments. But oh yeah, to reiterate what happened the week before last with Loving Topaz, we know that baby Waleed and Topaz have been getting into it. Waleed has been coming home late and drunk, and Topaz is feeling some kind of way. Although Waleed is still his mother's boyfriend, he's still been feeling some kind of way about that. He tried to set him up to try to make him, I guess, not like him, or try to give him some, but not let him finish the do. But Waleed ended up getting him and loving him like the first day he did it. His words, not mine. But anyways, we know that he's living with Waleed now because he tried to reunite with his family, but they wasn't having it, child. Anyways, we are on chapter 9 of Loving Topaz, and it's my turn. Oof, let's see what he talk about. It was about 8 p.m. when the Jespers arrived back at the house on Sunday evening. Waleed and I were sitting in the game room. When we heard the keys in the door, Waleed said, "The honeymoon is over for now." He kissed me softly on my lips and said, "I'm just across the hall, my love. When your body calls, I'm going to come running to you." I laughed and said, "You are so corny," when actually the silly comment made my insides quiver. We went up the steps to greet them. We all met up in the kitchen. We did our hugs and told them how much we missed them and how glad we were that they were home. We were talking when the room came to a standstill and I heard, "It better not be." We all looked at Mrs. Jesper. She said, "What is wrong with your hand, Topaz?" It was still wrapped in the ace bandage from the hospital. I put my hand behind my back. She said, "No, don't hide it. I want some answers, and I want them now." We started to explain the events from the Thanksgiving dinner fiasco at my grandmother's house, as well as the separation of my mom and Waleed. We never even finished giving her all the details when she shut us down and said, "I don't even want to hear anymore. I told you, Wade, I didn't want my baby to go over there with those folks. It's always an issue. Something in my spirit told me that this wasn't favorable to send Topaz into. but I've had enough. I've heard enough, and I've seen enough. She took me into the living room where it was just she and I. I sat down and she said, I'm sorry, Topaz. I just can't take anymore, Topaz. What are your thoughts on this? Because ultimately, this is about you and your relationship with your family, not my personal feelings. I looked up at her and said, I'm okay. Waleed took care of me as much as he could while he was keeping himself together. But when it comes to my family, I'm done. Mrs. Jesper, I don't care if I never see any of them again, with the exception of my Uncle Joe. She looked at me with an intense look on her face and said, good, because now it's my turn. I had no idea what she meant by that comment, but I knew it would be something very interesting in the upcoming days. In the short time that I've been with the Jespers, I found that she doesn't play around, and Waleed and his dad kind of stay out of her way when her mind is made up. Shortly after all of that, the Jespers said they were tired and they were going to call it a night. Waleed and I decided to watch some more television, and around midnight, we also called it a night. It was back to work and school in the morning. School was pretty uneventful the next day. I was glad. My mind was still spinning with the uncertainty of what Miss Jesper meant. As a whole, I was enjoying school. It was an entertaining time for the most part. 5 out of my 7 classes had my crew in them. And Mike flirted with me all through the day. What can I say? It was an ego builder. Sometimes it even made me a little nervous because I would find myself saying, I wonder how he is. But the urge would generally pass with the thought of my dreadhead Adonis that I had at home. When I jumped off the school bus and started up the walkway to the house, I could smell fantastic fragrances. I sped up my steps, let myself in, and went straight to the kitchen, where I found Mrs. Jesper in her apron and cooking up a storm. I said, good afternoon. What's going on? It smells wonderful in here. She said, baby, I'm feeling good today. I took off work this day because today is an important day. It is a life-changing day, and it's a day for family. That is all I'm going to say for now. I want you to get dressed for a proper dinner and be down here at 6 p.m. So get all your homework and everything done. Okay, baby? I said, yes, ma'am. I'm going now. She said, that's my baby. I was hurrying to get all my work done so I could be downstairs and ready on time. I was just dying to see what Miss Jesper had going on. I ran in Waleed's room to get my toothbrush out of his bathroom. Though I had full access to the bathroom in the hallway, I always found myself in his. Go figure. The Jespers had 4 bathrooms in all, one attached to their room, the one in Waleed's room, mine in the hallway a few steps away from my bedroom, and one on the main floor of the home. Anyway, as I went into Waleed's bathroom, he was in the shower. I went over to the sink to grab my toothbrush, and I couldn't help looking at his image behind the sliding glass shower doors. He was just so damn sexy. He was looking back at me. He slid the door open and said, I was thinking about you before you even came in here. I said, oh, really? He slid the door all the way open to show me the proof. I said, boy, I ain't got no time to fool with you right now. I can't wait to see what your mom's got up her sleeve. He said, I don't have a clue, but don't worry. He reached down and began touching himself and said, you got a minute for a nigga that loves you? I laughed and said, no, not at this moment, but I love you back. He said, no worries, I'll take care of this. But later on, I'm going to need to see you. He was steadily working on himself. Then he looked down at his hand and said, he needs to make a connection with you. I said, I don't mind hooking up with him later either. I left him to himself and finished getting myself together. We were all seated at exactly 6 p.m. wondering what we were in for, though I had a feeling that Mr. Jesper knew, because he seemed a bit more upbeat than normal. We were all dressed like we were going out for dinner. The table was set with all the Thanksgiving fixings that you could think of. There was turkey and stuffing, greens, string beans, macaroni and cheese, yams, mashed potatoes, potato salad, ham, and cranberry sauce. Okay. And just when you thought it couldn't get any better, on the countertop was a peach and apple cobbler and a homemade pound cake. Okay. Mrs. Jesper said, I want to start by asking Wade to lead us in prayer. I'm very happy to be here with all my family to celebrate a good old-fashioned Jesper Thanksgiving dinner. There is no way I would let the holiday go by knowing that you two didn't get to eat. That really hurt me. So, we're going to be thankful for one another and eat good tonight. So, come on, Wade, baby, open us up in prayer. We all joined hands as Mr. Jesper led the prayer, and then all the eating began. As we took in our meal, Mrs. Jesper dropped a bomb on us. She stated, Topaz, my sweet new addition to this household, I know I kind of confused you last night with our little talk, so allow me to clarify. You are not a roomer here in this home. You are not some squatter taking up a room. We see you as part of the family. We love you as much as we love Waleed. Wade, am I right? Mr. Jesper said, you know I told you that I love you, son, just as you are. I'm really glad you're here with us. Mrs. Jesper continued, Waleed, it's time to end this charade. You need to remove your things from Teresa's house. You said you're done with that situation. Be done. Come on home, and then you can figure out your next move. But the separation needs to happen. Waleed said, I agree, Mama. I already had that plan. This evening when Teresa goes to work, I'm going to move my stuff. I don't want any issues with her. I wish her the best. I just don't want her as part of my life anymore. Mrs. Jesper continued, Topaz, the last thing I said to you is, it's my turn. And it is. It is time for me to handle things the way I handle things. I've been to see our lawyer, and I have begun the ball to rolling. You are part of the family, and so you shall be. Wade and I will be fighting for legal custody of you. She paused and waited for a response. I was in shock. I didn't know what to say. Waleed's mouth just dropped open. I bet it did. She continued, it makes no sense to allow this foolishness to go on any further. The best years of your life are upon you, and you need family in your corner. Not all this craziness. I will seek for support payments from Teresa, and we will set it up in an account for you. Now that's me being a little bit vindictive. We can afford to raise you, but why should she get a free ride? She owes you that support, and we will see that you get it. She hasn't been in your corner mentally, but she will financially, period. So there you go. That is my plans. But if you do not agree, I can stop the proceedings immediately. I said, no, I am ecstatic that you all love me that much, that you would. I couldn't go any further. The tears started coming. Waleed got up and walked over to me. He knelt down beside my chair and said, it's going to be okay, T. We finished our dinner and cleaned up the dishes and put the food away. I was so full, I just needed to lie down. The last thing I heard Mrs. Jesper say to Waleed was not to have me out all night moving those clothes and things because I have school tomorrow. I hate moving and carrying stuff around, but that's my dude, so I'm all in. I had a good sleep going when Waleed woke me up and said it was time to go. It was a little after 1 a.m. We went over to the dark, lifeless house and began packing up all of Waleed's and my belongings. By 2:30 a.m., we had everything at the front door ready to be loaded into his truck. Waleed said, did you get everything you wanted from your room? I said, yes. Waleed pulled me close to him and said, how about we get even? I said, get even? What do you mean? In that moment, y'all already know what he about to do. In that moment, He swept me up and carried me upstairs to my mom's room and made love to me all over her room. I don't think there was a piece of furniture in that room that I didn't lean over, bend over, sit, or lay on. Though it was mean to do, I felt so empowered by our shady act. We walked back downstairs and loaded all of our things into Wally's SUV. As we were about to lock the house up, I said, "Can you go one more time?" Wally said, "You know my shit's always on brick." I led him to the dining room and crawled up onto the center of the table and let Waleed have his way with me right there in the middle of the dining room table. As Waleed did his business, I said to him in his ear, "I win. I got the man and a real family. Now, it's my turn." And scene. Okay. Y'all don't go nowhere. As you all know, it's a brief intermission. Don't move. Welcome. Welcome to another episode of Almond Delights Reading Corner. Relax, kick up your feet as we get into this week's read. Tonight we'll be reading Loving Topaz, a novella by James Colwell. Head on over to Amazon.com and download your books today. Come and support our authors. But we're going to get into this book. Loving Topaz. Tell a friend to tell a friend and then tell their friends. We over here reading, y'all. But let's get into this book. Are you ready? Shh. Welcome back. Welcome back. So we are on chapter, Lord, this is the last chapter of the book, chapter 10. Woo! Heavy on the disclaimer. There will be cussing and other adult activities going on in this book. Sit back, relax, and just enjoy this read, okay? Now, the real fighting starts. You fucking bastard. I'm glad you left and took all your shit. Cause Stan moved in today. And I'm glad I don't have to sneak to get me some good dick anymore. You fucking loser. This was the message that was left on Waleed's phone by my mom. It had been 3 days since we had moved our things out of the house. And she had already moved in the guy that she and Trianne were both messing around with. I couldn't believe that she would continue on with him knowing that he was having sex with my sister. I couldn't understand that. It was surprising that she didn't lash out at Waleed on the first day that she noticed he was gone. But I guess she had other plans on getting rid of him anyway. Whatever. He and I were very happy being so close to each other. And there was nothing like having access to my dude almost whenever I wanted. So I guess I should have thanked Mom for being ridiculous. She didn't bother with me at all. She hadn't said a word about my things being removed. I guess she didn't care. That's so typical. About 2 weeks after that, we received letters stating the request for custody and a subpoena to appear in court on January 9th. which just happens to be my birthday. This is going to be such a great birthday present for me. The best ever. I really want the separation and I want it to be done. Really done. 1 week after we got the letter, Mrs. Jesper and I were out doing our normal shopping on a Saturday. We had decided to stop and grab a few groceries before we headed back to the house. We were going up and down the aisles. I was enjoying every minute of it. Mrs. Jesper was like a good girlfriend and a mom, all wrapped in one. I rarely asked her for anything, yet she was constantly buying me things. I would try to pay for lunch or things sometimes, and she wouldn't have any part of it. I had a pretty good nest egg saved, while he was constantly giving me money. He said I was his, and he wanted me to have no reason to ask anyone for anything. Out of the corner of my eye, I thought I had seen Trianne, but wasn't quite sure. We kept it moving. As we made another turn into the frozen food section, standing directly in front of us was Mom. She immediately started going in. She approached us and said, "So you want my faggot, do you? Do you think I care? Because I don't. I never wanted him from the time I found out I was pregnant." Mrs. Jesper interrupted her. "Listen, Teresa, we have never had this kind of dialogue between us, and we are not going to start this, especially not out in public." My mom continued to snap. "You can't tell me what kind of dialogue that I'm going to have when it comes to something I shit out of my ass. You are not my mother, and your punk ass son is not here." I could see Miss Jesper was getting irritated. She said, "Let me tell you something, little girl. You need to get yourself together. All of this unnecessary venom you're spitting is not helping anyone, and I will not continue to listen. Your days of verbally abusing both of my sons is over. Now take your little cart and your bad attitude and get on." It was starting to get a little loud, and folks were starting to stare. My mom really then went in and said, "Your son? He is not your fucking son, you sadistic ass suburb bitch. I would never let you have him. I don't want the cocksucker, but you're not getting him." I said, "Why don't you stop it? Why don't you just let me go?" By this time, Trianne had come around the bend into the aisle. She threw her purse in my mom's car and ran up in my face and said, "Didn't I tell you I was gonna fuck you up every time I see you, bitch?" Mrs. Jesper stepped in front of me and said, "I swear to the Almighty, if either one of you put your hands on him, the Undertaker will dress you for a fantastic party this weekend." Trianne started mouthing off to Mrs. Jesper. "Why do you want to protect him anyway? What is your point? The world hates fags like him. He's a filthy, faggot-ass motherfucker." I said, "And you are jealous. Jealous because you know the world doesn't hate me. It burns you up, both of you. That I look like her and I'm small like her. And you look like a linebacker, you big hairy back bitch." And guess what? I hate the both of you. He called her a big linebacker. Mrs. Jesper grabbed my hand and said, "Baby, you don't stoop to meet these mongrels in the playground. You let them play alone." My mom pulled Trianne back and told Mrs. Jesper, "I will slap the shit out of you if you say another word, you old bitch." Mrs. Jesper replied, "I've heard enough. Let's go, Topaz." We started moving toward the front of the store. They were following behind us with a steadily growing crowd. Trianne said, "I'm gonna get him. I swear I'm fucking him up. I owe you, you bitch." The in-store security broke up the crowd. The security guard came directly up to Mrs. Jesper and said, "Trudy, what's going on? And how can I help?" She said, "These lovely people are bothering me and my child. Please send them away, Earl." Without a second to spare, Mom and Trianne were being escorted out into the parking lot. We finished checking out and Mrs. Jesper thanked her friend that was working security. Then she told me, "You see, baby, sometimes you can get around ignorant Now, don't get me wrong. Sometimes you have to get down and dirty. But at the end of the day, she is your mother, and I want to be respectful to her in your presence. But that is the last time that I will excuse her being in my face speaking about either one of my children. I just won't have it. I told her, don't worry about me. I wanted to knock him out. Mrs. Jesper replied, no matter what, she is still your mother, and parents are to be respected. It is in God's word. We got out to the parking lot, and as we started across the lot to our car, Trianne and Mom ran up to us arguing again. Mrs. Jesper said, go away. You have your day in court to say whatever is on your mind. Mom was yelling, calling my son Topaz. His name is Eugene. He ain't no girl. You got that, bitch? Mrs. Jesper said, if he followed your lead, he wouldn't know what his name was. He'd be thinking his name was faggot and bitch. I'm going to tell you one more time. Go away, Teresa. You starting to upset me, okay? So run on now, little girl. My mom blurted out, little girl? You fucking old ass bitch. Mrs. Jesper said, okay, that's it. I'm done. Topaz, get in the car. I was just about done putting the bags into the trunk when Trianne came around to the side of the car and started up again. I told her to get out my face. She continued on, Topaz, where the fuck did you get that bullshit from? You really want to be a female, you faggot ass bitch. Jesus. I said, you know what, Trianne? I'm really not a bitch. I just play one in your life. She swung at my face and missed. I immediately grabbed the crowbar from the trunk and began pounding her with it. She was trying to move out of the way of the beating, but I was on her like a cheap coat and continued punishing her with it. She lost her footing and fell to the ground over on the side of the car where Mom and Mrs. Jesper were. I was so upset. I just kept banging her with the crowbar. Mrs. Jesper was yelling for me to stop. My mom ran over and punched me in the side of the head and said, you fucking faggot. Mrs. Jesper grabbed my mom by her hair and slammed her into the nearby car and said, I warned you about this, didn't I? I'm not playing games, Teresa. Security was approaching quickly as Mom spit directly into Mrs. Jesper's face and said, fuck you, bitch. Mrs. Jesper hauled off and punched Mom dead square in the nose, which knocked her out. The security took us back into the store to write up a report of the incident. Once my mom came to, she and Trianne were sent away. They ain't called no ambulance. Later on that evening, I was just laying on my bed and had dozed off for a little bit when I felt someone touching my stomach. I awoke to Waleed's smile. He said he was pissed off about the fight and all the drama, but he said he had also heard that I was quite handy with a crowbar. I told him I was tired of all of it, and he said not to worry. Then he dropped some news on me. He would be moving out in the weeks to come. I immediately thought it was another woman, and he would be shacking up with her while I'll be left here alone with his parents. I was not amused, but he assured me that there was no one else and it was his own apartment. He also informed me of all the time that I would be spending there. I smiled as he climbed up into my bed with me and started kissing me. Then he asked me if I was swinging on some old crowbar. I got up and made sure the door was locked, and once it was secure, I went back to the bed, climbed into his lap, and he took it from there. These stolen moments with Waleed always sent me to a place where I could just forget about all the confusion and I could be peaceful and calm. As the holiday season moved on, I was having the time of my life. It was one of the best that I could ever remember having. Yet, my dreaded other half was really catching a hard time. My mom was constantly sending him rude texts and calling his phone late at night while she was on breaks at work and just cursing him out and blaming the whole situation on him. I told him to change his phone number, but he wouldn't. He said he wouldn't let her run his life. I would have just changed my number. I would rather not speak with her at all. But it does drive me crazy when we are stealing some time here. And here she is butting in with her foolishness. A couple of times I tried to snatch the phone out of his hand, but he just wasn't having that. I thought it was pretty funny. One week before Christmas, Waleed informed me that he had found an apartment about 20 minutes away from the house. I don't know how I really feel about that. I didn't know if that was good or bad. What would it do to the dynamic of our relationship? I figured I would just have to wait and see. On the 23rd, the Jespers hosted an elaborate holiday party at the house. It was really top of the line. Mr. Jesper and Waleed wore black tuxedos. Mrs. Jesper and I had our outfits custom made. She wore a beautiful red silk strapless gown, and I had a red and black tux. The jacket was done in an intricate brocade, and we all looked fabulous. At the party, there were a few of our neighbors and a good bit of folks from the church that the Jespers attended. I've been to the church a few times, but I'm not made to go if I don't feel like it. All night long, I have been getting the strangest looks from Trent. He is the choir director at the church. I noticed him a few times at church. He's really cute, tall, and he has an undeniable chocolate complexion. His voice is really deep, especially when he sings. It's really good quality. As the night went on, we decided to sing Christmas carols. I was happy to do so, because I was feeling a little bummed out after Waleed left. He had to attend his job's Christmas party too. We were singing Silent Night, and I had kind of zoned out. I hadn't even noticed that everyone else had stopped singing. I had my eyes closed, thinking of Waleed and singing. And when I went to open my eyes, everyone was just standing there staring at me. I was looking around at them, then I said, "I'm sorry, was I off or was I too loud?" Mrs. Jesper walked over to me slowly and said, "Topaz, you never told us you can sing. My God, what a guilt he has laid upon your shoulders." By this time, Mr. Jesper was standing on the opposite side of me, with his chest poked out as far as any proud father that you've ever seen. The guests were snapping pictures of the three of us and clapping. I was getting a little embarrassed. I could feel my cheeks heating up. I said, "Thanks, guys. It's just something I don't do often, but I like it." At that point, Trent introduced himself again. He said, "I know you see me at church, and you've been more than gracious tonight. My name is Trent Dobson, and I'm the choir director of Mount Temple Church. I would love to sit with you and talk with you about your singing, and see if you would be a good fit for our choir. Only if you want to. But what I just heard from you, young man, was heaven sent." Mrs. Jesper stepped in. She said, "Okay, Trent, we will talk it over with Topaz, and we will be in touch with you soon." He said, "Thank you very much, Sister Trudy." The carols continued after that for about another 40 minutes, and then the party was starting to draw to a close. I was in the study retrieving the coats of a few guests as they requested them. When I turned to go back out, and in walks Trent. He walked straight up to me and said, "I just want to say, you have the voice and the face of an absolute angel." He was staring down at me with a great intensity. I just tried to keep my cool as I looked up at his well-suited 6'3" frame and beautiful white teeth. I said, "Thank you so much, Mr. Dobson." He said, No, Topaz. I'm only 24. You can call me Trent. I'm sure you and I will be able to make beautiful music together." He then leaned over and kissed me softly on my lips. I know it. My feet were stuck in that spot. He pulled away slowly, and I put my hand up to my mouth. He said, "I hope I wasn't too out of line, but I couldn't help myself." I replied softly, "No, that's okay." He stepped in closer to me and placed his hand around my waist and planted a few soft pecks on my neck and said, "Damn, you taste just like something straight out of a bakery. So sweet, so sweet." I placed my hand up to his chest. He looked into my eyes deeply and said, "Merry Christmas, songbird." He planted one more soft kiss against my neck and strolled out of the study. Whew. I was in a state of shock. I just couldn't wrap my head around how easily I allowed Trent to swoon me. I loved Waleed to death, yet I did nothing to stop Trent's advances. And quite frankly, they left me a bit horny. After cleaning up a bit, me and the Jespers turned in for the night. I was in a deep slumber when I visualized myself and Trent getting down and dirty. It felt so real that I could hardly tell that it wasn't really going on. Every touch was sending chills through my body. You send me chills running through my body. I was rolled onto my stomach and all my clothes were off. I was so aroused and taken back by this dream, but I didn't get a burst of reality until I felt locks of hair touching my back. It startled me and awakened me. I immediately started to feel guilty. I tried to move, but the weight of Waleed's body on top of me kept me still. I said, "Let me up, Waleed." He said, "What's up?" I was just getting ready to run up in. "Please don't make me stop." I said, "I just can't right now." He said, "Did I do something? Or did I hurt you?" I replied, "No, I just need a couple of minutes." I sat on the edge of the bed and tried to gather my thoughts. Waleed slid over next to me and said, "What is it? Are you okay, T?" I replied, "Yes, but have I told you lately that I love you?" He looked at me funny and said, "You always do. What's going on?" I laughed and played it off and said, "You always coming in here when I'm sleeping, taking advantage of me. You nasty night-crawling freak." He laughed and said, "Man, I get so excited to get up in there sometimes I just forget to wake you up. I tell you all the time how good it is. That's real talk, boo. It ain't like nothing else I ever had." I jumped in. "Speaking of that, what else have you had, Waleed? You never really talk about your past with me. So, let's talk." He tried to lay me down while saying, "I don't want to talk about no old in the past shit. I want to make you feel good right now." I said, "Well, what would make me feel good is some answers, and you're getting nothing till I get them." He sat up and said, "Dad, I'll tell you." He went on to explain, "I've only had 3 girlfriends, counting your mom, and I've only had sex with a total of 5 people, and that's including you. I was a virgin till I was 15, and me and my first girlfriend had 6. We were both 15. We really didn't know what we were doing. Then, when I turned 16, I had sex with a 22-year-old girl that used to live about 2 streets over." I interrupted, "How'd that come about? She was 6 years older." He gave me a funny look and said, "She told me that she kept seeing me playing ball and could see what I was working with, see that I was working with something, because I was always flopping in my shorts." He was sitting there with a dumbass grin on his face. I punched him in the chest. "Go on, clown." He said, "You know what's up." As he held onto himself. He continued, "That went on for about 2 years until she got engaged and eventually got married. Then she moved away. About a month after that, the chick who was her maid of honor rolled up on me and told me that old girl had told her what I was holding. Told her I was holding 11, and she couldn't believe it. I told her if I showed her, she'd have to suck it. And she said absolutely. And she did just that. We dated for a while, but it didn't work out. For her to be 24, she was really immature. I took a break for a while. Then I ended up meeting your mom, and I really liked her. And you know the rest." I punched him again and said, "How are you going to just lump me into the rest? You punk." He said, "You know how I feel about you. Baby, you the best. Now, I answer the questions. Can I please have my dessert?" I peeled off his clothes and took care of him, and he most graciously took care of me like he always did. We laid and talked for a while before he tiptoed back across the hallway to his room. Christmas Day was the absolute best. It was like nothing I had experienced. I don't even know when the Jespers had bought all the gifts they had for me, and Waleed was no slouch. It was just ridiculous. The amount of shoes, boots, and clothing I received from my new family. I kept crying all day long. I was just so happy, and I was really overwhelmed when I gave my gifts to each of the Jespers, as they didn't even expect the gift. I had all three of them sit on the couch, and I handed them each a box, which made me start crying all over again. I gave each of them a gold necklace with a small topaz charm dangling from it. As they opened their boxes, I made them promise that they would never forget me. Mr. Jesper started with the tears, and before long, we were all breaking down. It was the most beautiful Christmas ever. Late in the evening on Christmas, Waleed came to my room and said he had to speak to me. I sat on the bed and asked him what was up. He told me he had another gift for me, but I had to promise that I would be his from here on out. Child, I said, I thought that was the understanding all along. He said, I'm just making sure. He kissed me softly on my lips and said, I am so fucked up about you. Sometimes I think I'm going crazy. I love the shit out of you, T. You gotta be mine for always. And with that, he slid a small box in my hand. I opened it and there it was, a 2-carat band of topaz. It was absolutely the most gorgeous ring I have ever seen. I felt like I was going to faint. I jumped up off the bed and into Waleed's arms. He was holding me up in the air and kissing me. Then he said, I take it you like it? I said, are you serious? It is beautiful. He put me down and grabbed my hand and kissed the ring on my finger and said, I love you so much. Merry Christmas to you, baby boo. For the next few days, I was walking around like I was in a daze. How could anything get any better than this? Could this really be my life? Waleed had moved into his new place, and I was there just about all of the time. I could definitely get used to this. Mrs. Jesper was always telling me how much Waleed loves me. She said he always wanted a sibling, and she couldn't have more children. When she seen my ring the day after Christmas, she pulled me into the kitchen and told me, see, I told you, your brother loves you. I almost died keeping that secret from you. I knew you would love that ring. It took us a month to find it. I was floored because I didn't know what we were going to tell her about the ring being as though he didn't give it to me during our family gift exchange. But he had explained to his mom that he didn't want the ring to overshine all of the other great gifts that had been purchased. And with that explanation, she never even caught on. Oh well, it was a little white lie that was definitely for the best. He loves me, and that is what is important. January 9th seemed to arrive faster than ever before. As I arose from the bed that morning, I felt like I was carrying a huge weight. There was so much that was going on that day that I didn't know if I was ready. It was my birthday, and also my custody hearing. I hadn't seen my mother since the fiasco in the grocery store. Would she still be yelling and screaming, or would she just not show up and just let the Jespers have custody without fighting? Who knows? But my day got better almost instantaneously. I came downstairs dressed in all black leather riding boots, pants, and a button-down shirt, custom made of course. It was a gift from Mrs. Jesper. I made my way to the kitchen for breakfast, and of course I was the last one to make it. Waleed and Mr. Jesper were already eating. They started laughing like little kids when I sat down. Mr. Jesper said, sorry, little man, we couldn't wait. You know you're slow when you get dressed. Then stood up and said, I got you a gift for your 17th birthday that I know you're going to love. Bring it in, Trudy. Mrs. Jesper came in from the living room with a black mink hooded bomber jacket. I just fell back in my chair. It was the most gorgeous coat I've ever seen in person. I looked over at Mr. Jesper and just busted out crying. He said, now, little man, don't do that. You know I don't like to see you cry. And for 1 second, it was like I was in the Twilight Zone. Because when he said it, he sounded just like Waleed. I got up and ran over and hugged him and said, "Thank you so much. I love it." Waleed said, "The gift giving is not over. Give me your ring." I gave him a strange look and I hesitated. He said, "Trust me, T. Give it here and close your eyes." So I did it, and I could feel him trying to slide my ring back on. And when he eventually got it on, it felt a little funny. Then he said, "Okay, now look." I fell back in the chair again, as I could hardly catch my breath looking down at my finger. Waleed had purchased a 2-carat diamond wrapped band that encased my topaz ring in the center. My finger was so totally blinged out, I couldn't stop looking at it. I gave him a hug and said, "Wow, I really love it. Thanks, you guys. This is already turning out to be the best birthday ever." I sat and tried to eat, but I didn't get much down before we had to get headed to the lawyer's office. He was going to brief us on today's proceedings. It was a little overwhelming to hear what was going to transpire in the hearing. The questions that were going to be asked, the evidence that would be presented, and all the extras for just in case. The lawyer, John C. Foxworth III, was a well-respected criminal attorney who was doing a favor for a friend. He didn't usually deal with cases as small as ours, but the Jespers are very well connected and have a lot of friends that they have kept through their college and their earlier years of being in the workforce. Mr. Foxworth assured me that everything would be fine and I didn't have to worry, and that he would complete our family without a problem. He explained that the Jespers really wanted to seek full adoption, but if they do that, my mom would not be responsible to pay support. So, what we will be going after is legal custody and guardianship. He made sure that I completely understood and was in agreement with everything. As we were discussing the situation, Waleed stated to Mr. Foxworth, if in some strange event that his parents can't get custody, that he would be willing to try. Are you serious? Mr. Foxworth said, "Thanks, young man, but I think we'll be fine on today's proceedings." He looked over at me and said, "Young man, I hope you know how fortunate you are to have a family love you so much. These situations are few. Generally, a child your age will end up in foster homes or stuck with family members that abuse them. I am very happy for you, and happy birthday to you, son." I said, "Thank you." Mr. Jesper said, "Topaz, we have one last surprise for you, and you will have to agree and sign off on it." I was totally confused at that point. Mr. Foxworth went into his drawer and pulled out a black folder and laid it open on his desk in front of me, and he began. "In the event that we are granted custody, the Jespers have explained to me how much they want you to feel complete and whole. They would like you to share their last name." I began to cry, but I managed to force out the words, "Of course. My gosh, thank you. Are you sure?" Child, I was looking at all of the Jespers. All three of them were smiling and shaking their heads yes. Mr. Foxworth continued, "Okay, so you will need to sign here at the bottom and print your original name underneath. But before you do that, Mrs. Jesper, did you want to say something before we finish this?" She said, "Definitely. Thank you, John. Topaz, do you remember the conversation we had when you gave me permission to call you Topaz instead of Eugene? You told me that you did not like that name. So, I like the name Topaz Jesper. What do you think?" I got up and ran over to Mrs. Jesper and hugged her. I said, "Is that possible? Can I have that? Will the courts let me have it?" Mr. Foxworth said, "You should have a new name to go along with your new life. Leave all the rest of the hurt behind. And Topaz, don't ever look back." I signed the papers and they finally got me calmed down so that we could proceed to the hearing. We were the first to arrive. We had taken our seats, and shortly after that, my family members started to arrive. They all seemed to have an attitude, which I expected. There was my mom, my grandma, Trianne, and my Uncle Joe. My Uncle Joe walked over and hugged me and shook hands with the Jespers and said, "I thank you for all you've done. Please take good care of my nephew. And if you need anything, please don't hesitate to call me." He wrote down his cell phone number and then went back over and took his seat with my family. My mom and grandma said something to him. I couldn't hear what, but I could see on his face that it wasn't anything nice. Once the trial began, it was so quiet and serious inside of the courtroom. They called Mrs. Jesper to the stand. The judge asked her to identify herself, then asked why was she there. Mrs. Jesper began. "My son began dating Mrs. Teresa Ballou almost 2 years ago. I had some concerns because there was a significant age difference, and she also had 3 children already, but everything seemed to be okay. Then, almost a year in, Waleed moved in with the family. At that point, he started to consult with me about the youngest of the 3 children. He told me the child was going down the road of being homosexual, and the rest of the family wasn't taking it very well, and they could be downright abusive to this child. Waleed started to bring Eugene around us with him periodically, and I could see that this child was in need of love. He seemed to be bonding with Waleed. But the more I heard and seen the interactions of the other people in their home, it bothered me. Everything escalated in July of last year when I witnessed some physical abuse coming from the sister and the mother. Just let it go on. My husband and I took Eugene home that evening, and he stayed overnight. About 3 days after that, Waleed brought him back to our house after a physical altercation with the mother and the sister. But this time, someone apparently stomped him in his back, and now he had 6 or 7 stitches in his back. A day later, at a funeral for one of the other Ballou children, witnessed the mother and sister attacking Eugene again. There was an arrest of these 2 women when they began fighting and ultimately disrupted their whole homegoing celebration. My husband and I took Eugene home with us, and that is where he has been ever since. There was one attempt for reunification during the Thanksgiving holiday, which also resulted in a fight and a bad hand injury suffered by Eugene. I couldn't stand it anymore, and this is why I'm seeking legal guardianship of Eugene Ballou. Once the papers were filed and distributed, Eugene and I were attacked in the grocery store by Teresa and Trianne, and I do have statements from the store's security crew. The judge told Mrs. Jesper she could go back and take her seat. Next to the stand was my mother. The judge asked her what her reaction was to the allegations. She began, "Families have problems sometimes, but we always work through what our issues are. Now, there have been times when it has gotten physical, and I'm not proud of that. I love my children, all 3 of them. And it just broke my heart when I received the letter saying that the Jespers were trying to take my baby away. And all of this came after I broke off a relationship with their son. I believe this is his way of getting back at me." She had the nerve to begin to cry, and then she went on, "I don't have any issue with Gene's homosexuality. At first it was a little hard for me, but I'm in a good place personally. Now, where I do have some concerns is with the change in his personality. Your Honor, my Eugene was soft-spoken and very mannerable. Now he is cursing, and on Thanksgiving he literally knocked his sister's 2 front teeth out. Then he beat her in the back with a crowbar on another occasion. And he even went as far as to threaten to do bodily harm to me. I don't like this hostile behavior. It has to be coming from their home. He never showed signs of this when he was with me. We've been trying to get Gene to come home. We want him with us, where he belongs, with his family." The judge asked, "Are you telling me that you've been working to reunite with Eugene Ballou?" She said, "Yes, sir. Whenever I can get his attention. He is not always open to speak to me. I believe that the Jespers are trying to poison my son's mind against me. I can't stand it. Please come home, Eugene. Mommy loves you. She broke down in tears. It was a fabulous performance worthy of an Oscar. The judge said, I have no further questions. Please go and take your seat. I looked at Mrs. Jesper and I said, she is lying. She is lying. Oh my God. They're going to make me go back to her. Please don't let them. Please. The tears began to run. Mrs. Jesper said, stop crying, baby. You aren't going anywhere. Just tell the truth. And remember, God knows truth and he upholds it. Okay? We can't lose. We've got God on our side. She kissed me on my forehead and moments later I was called to take the stand. The judge asked me basic questions about my home life with my mother and I replied, it wasn't always terrible, though I always knew that she had issues with my sexuality. She would make comments about how I walk and she would say that I switch more than my sister, and that's foul. Then she hated my clothing choices. Any clothing that had a tight fit, she refused to buy, and I would have to get it on my own, however I could. Then once I did, she would criticize me for having it on the whole time I was wearing it. Within the last year or so, really a few months before Waleed moved in with us, her comments got to be worse. She and my sister would call me the B word and also refer to me as a fag or a sea sucker. You could hear a pin drop in the courtroom. Once Waleed came, he wouldn't speak to me that way, and she would attack him for it. She would tell him that he didn't have to be nice to me, and sometimes it seemed that she got mad because he was. But he never did any of that. Instead, he would take me places with him. A lot of times I would go to his parents' house for lunch and stuff, or just play video games over there. He said he could tell when I needed a little break from the criticism. Now that I'm at the Jespers' home all the time, I feel complete. I feel loved. No one judges me. All they ever do is make sure I have what I need. Now, I definitely have chores and rules that I have to follow, but no one is yelling and screaming. And most importantly, Your Honor, I got a little choked up and started to cry a bit as I continued. They don't hit me or throw food or drinks on me. The judge just stared at me for a moment. I can tell in his eyes he knew I was telling the truth. He said, thank you, young man. You can go back and take your seat. The judge asked if there were anyone else that wanted to share any testimony, to which my grandmother raised her hand. He motioned for her to come up and be sworn in, and she began, Your Honor, I just wanted to say that as a grandmother, it saddens me when someone would so selfishly try to tear a family apart. We welcomed Waleed and his family in so graciously, and now for them to be trying to rip my daughter's child away from her when she just suffered the loss of another child is just the devil's work. Then they don't call him by his birth-given name. They call him some old name that little gay friends of his used to refer to him. It's just wrong. Why would they promote that kind of lifestyle onto my grandchild? It just sickens me. The judge sat up really straight and said, Ma'am, would you like to share with the court what name is being used for Mr. Balu? She said, yes, they are calling him Topaz. He ain't no girl, hear me? He is a man, and he needs to act like one, and they ought to be ashamed of themselves. Sitting there like there's so much, like you done so much with your own child. He ain't so good, I tell you. Oh yeah. He say all the right things because they sent him to private schools and such. And when is it proper for a man to put his penis into the mouth of a 19-year-old girl that happens to be his girlfriend's daughter? That is the family that you want to send my grandbaby with? I won't have it, I tell you. I won't. My heart can't stand it, Your Honor. Do you have children? The judge said, yes, I do. My grandmother continued, how would you feel if someone took advantage of one of your children to pleasure himself when you weren't home? How would that make you feel? I can tell you, it would make you as mad as hell. The judge said, Will that be all, Mrs. Baloo? She said, that will be all fine, sir, and I know you will do the right thing. God bless you, Your Honor. She got up and went back to her seat. I was appalled at this level of acting, and again, I felt as though I was a part of a Lifetime movie. The judge said, this is most definitely uncommon, but I'm going to call Mr. Walid Baloo to the stand. Please come up, sir. Walid took the stand without a second thought. The judge asked him, what do you have to say for yourself, young man? I wanted to give you an opportunity to speak on the allegations. Walid took a deep breath and said, I thank you, Your Honor, for not judging me and giving me a fair chance to tell my side of this. I never maliciously had relations of any type with the daughter of Teresa Baloo. I was lying asleep on the couch at the home of Trianne. I was lying asleep on the couch at the home when Trianne used her door key to let herself in. You see, she doesn't live in the home, Your Honor. Only myself, Teresa, and Eugene resided there. When I awoke, I found Trianne performing fellatio on me. I immediately pushed her off me and told her she needed to leave. In the weeks after that, she was threatening to tell people that there was more to it if I didn't involve myself with her romantically. All of this was explained in front of the complete Baloo family at their Thanksgiving celebration. I don't know why this is coming up again. And also, Eugene Baloo overheard Trianne in one of her rants when she was attempting to blackmail me, and he relayed that information to the family on that day as well. My upbringing has nothing to do with this, Your Honor. My parents did a great job with being there for me and pouring into me, and they're doing the same for Eugene. I beg you to see the truth in their testimony today, because I am sorry, but I really feel like I'm at the Academy Awards. I have watched these people, with the exception of Mr. Joseph Baloo, beat, belittle, and verbally torture this young man. I do have to say I've never seen Mrs. Baloo call him out of his name, but she doesn't stop anyone in the family from doing it. And today, you can hear in her testimony her true feelings about his sexuality. So I say, is that why she allows others to misuse him the way they do? She is the matriarch of this family. If there is anyone that could put a stop to it, wouldn't it be her? Or is it that the woman of God that we heard speak on family values here today was in agreement with their treatment? Your Honor, that is all I have to say. The judge said, thank you, Mr. Jesper. Please take your seat. The judge was in the middle of saying he was going to have a recess to come up with his decision. He was interrupted by my Uncle Joe, who said, Your Honor, I'm sorry for being out of order, but I have a few things to say. You better come through, Uncle Joe. The bailiff motioned for my uncle to sit down, but the judge said, I'll allow it. My uncle was then sworn in, and he began. I've been sitting here, and I'm going to start by saying, I love my family, man. God knows I do. But I can't sit by and let no wrong like this go on. It ain't right. Everything that the Jasper said today is the truth, and they are the truth. They've been taking damn good care of my nephew, Your Honor. Walid was the best thing that ever came into my sister's house for little Gene. I have been standing up for him since he was a little dude, man. It was always something being said about my nephew. I'm talking about my sis and her son and daughter calling him faggots and stuff from the time he was like 6 or 7. And all this crying and stuff, all fake. My sister and her daughter are more like rival hookers than mother and daughter. They're fighting over a young dude right now that my sis got living up in her house. I'm sorry, but you too, mama. It's all fake. And if he wants to be gay, so what? And he want to call himself Topaz, so what? It's gonna get some used to, but hell, I like it. If you got a good bone in your body and a heart in your chest, Judge, you'll give my nephew to the Jespers to raise him right and love him like I do. I've seen them. I know their heart is real, man. And on a serious note, you will be saving the lives of 3 or 4 people, Your Honor. I've told them if they put their hands on him again, on all I love, I'm going to catch a case. It's been too long and I can't take it no more. That's all, man. There was a 1 hour recess. The Jespers and I, along with our lawyer, went to have lunch, and my uncle came too. After his testimony, the family wanted nothing to do with him, of course. As we sat and had lunch, I asked my uncle what was he going to do with him living at my grandmother's house. He said that he had moved out a few weeks after the Thanksgiving situation. He told me again how much he loved me, and he thanked the Jespers for what they were doing. The Jespers told him that he was like family as well, and he was welcome anytime to come to the house to visit with me. Mr. Foxworth told my uncle that his hat was off to him and that he is a real stand-up dude. I didn't say anything, but I was very nervous about the verdict, especially after all the information about Waleed and Trianne. Whew. We finished up. I hardly ate any of my lunch, but we started back to the courtroom. It seemed to be the longest walk I'd ever taken. Once we were back and seated, the judge got started. There was some interesting testimony here today, as well as some disturbing testimony. When a youngster is being treated in a manner not befitting a pet rat, it angers me. But when it is being carried out by members of a family, it saddens me. Sexuality is never a reason to throw away a child. The statistics on teen suicides and displaced youth are alarming, and a lot of it is due to this kind of ignorance and non-tolerance. If I wasn't wearing a robe and sitting on this bench right now, I would say it is due to this kind of foolishness. These are the defining years of his life, and to toy with him in this manner is just unforgivable. What needs to be done is that both families would work together to get some understanding and get on one accord to raise this young man up to not be straight, not bisexual, not asexual, not homosexual, but a responsible, self-motivating citizen. Now, if he decides to be homosexual, which is apparent that he has, and that's okay, you as a family, all of you, the Balloos and the Jespers, should love him unconditionally. But from what I've seen here today, this kind of bond is not possible. So that's when it's unfortunately come across my desk to make decisions for the best interest of the child. Do you all understand that? I'm here to put the child in the home that I feel will best prepare him for the life he has ahead. So, in saying that, Mrs. Teresa Ballou, I have to tell you, it is a good thing that you work for a utility company because you are not a very good actress. Before I ever reviewed the folder filled with statements from neighbors and other family members and friends of how you speak to your son, I didn't believe a word you were saying. Your unease about his sexuality was so apparent when you stated that you were okay with it. I knew you was lying. And the same goes for Mrs. Ballou. I felt the same unease when you did your short sermon on the gay life. When you give that sermon again, make sure you back it up with the corresponding Bible verses. I am seeing the young man in question and the erratic behavior that you claim was being taught to him by the Jespers. They deserve none of that credit for that. That, it's all yours. Any animal continually backed into a corner will eventually come out fighting. And that is exactly what happened. You and your daughter backed him into a corner. And one day the tables turned, and unfortunately, it left your daughter with missing teeth. But again, that is your own fault. Mr. Joseph Ballou, I don't know what your relationship will be with your family from this point, but sir, know that you did the right thing. All right. And on to the Jespers. Mr. and Mrs. Jesper, you have proven to be a very genuine and loving couple who really have feelings for this young man. You have done a good job with your one biological child. He proved that when he sat here and defended himself without yelling and cursing and being taken outside of his raising. You should be proud. And that is why I'm going to grant you another chance to turn out another shining citizen to the world. I rule in favor of full legal custody to be given to Wade and Trudy Jesper for Eugene Ballou on this day of January 9th. I also have a petition here to do a full legal name change. which I also rule in favor of. Young sir, as of this day, you will legally be known as Topaz Jasper. At that point, everyone on our side was in tears and shouts of joy. My mom and grandmother were very upset, and my mom shouted, "That's a bunch of bullshit. I don't give a fuck. You fucking take care of him, you bitch." The judge slammed his gavel and said, "One more word, Mrs. Baloo, and I'll hold you in contempt of court." He continued, "I am also going to award support payments to the Jasper for the care of Topaz." He was interrupted by my mom's outburst. "What?" He said, "I'm not going to say it again. One more word and you're going to spend the night in jail." As I was saying, support payments in the amount of $1,500 monthly will be automatically debited from your paycheck, Mrs. Baloo. This will be in effect until Topaz reaches the age of 18. And at that point, you will still be responsible for 40% of his college expenses, provided he attends college, which I strongly suggest, Mr. Jasper. I see great things in your future, son. I just have one word of advice to share with you. Look up and hear me. And I'm saying this to you as a father of 5, not a judge. Topaz Jasper, don't ever look back. The future is in front of you. I beg you, son, don't ever look back. The tears were steadily rolling down my face as I said to the judge, "I promise I will not." I turned and looked at my new family unit, and my Uncle Joe said, "God does answer prayers." Mrs. Jasper said, "Yes, he does, baby. And this is just the beginning. God loves you, and he knows what's best for you." The end. And scene. Woo-wee! So that was the end of Loving Topaz. Oh my gosh. So now we see that Eugene Bailu is now Topaz Jasper, which I really don't know how I feel about that, considering he's sleeping with Waleed, and now Waleed is his brother. I'm going to drop the link down below. If anybody want to come up here, we can discuss what just happened in these 2 chapters, or the whole book. We can discuss how you guys feel. You continue to discuss it down here in the comments section. I appreciate everybody for coming over here joining us, but I'm with you, Shadil. He is with his abuser. He's with his abuser. His parents, his mom and them. You got a headache? His mom and them, they don't know. Yeah, that's why I need Ebony. Hey, Ebony. Hey, Ebony girl. Go back to the beginning of my reads, honey. It's all in the it's in a playlist. It's also on my podcast if you want to listen to it while y'all moving around. All the readings are uploaded there. I appreciate James for allowing us to read. I love the fact that the family, the husband and the wife, Mr. and Mrs. Jasper, saw a child in need and they took control of that. So I love that portion of it. Taking Waleed out of the whole conversation, out of the whole situation. I'm glad that he was able to get away and he has a family that is there to help take care of him. But we all know Waleed is there, and now he really has nowhere else to go. At this point, he has to be there with Waleed. Yeah, Waleed is going to move out, but he's moved out, but like he said, he's with him all the time. But we know Topaz does not see Waleed as an abuser at this point. He don't see it, but maybe he will see it that way in the next book. The next book that we will be reading is Losing Topaz. It's Losing Topaz, a sequel. So this is the second book. So if you guys have not gotten your book, I was going to read a chapter tonight, but we've already gone past our time, which is okay. But this is what we'll be reading next week. I will drop the link to this book, or if you look in the description box, if you find Loving Topaz, you can also find Losing Topaz as well as Learning Topaz. So those will be the next 2 books that we will be reading in this series. I'm telling y'all, I'm not sure what's gonna happen next with Topaz, and that's why I really do love these books because it's not really predictable. So we thought Uncle Joe. Well, we don't know, child. Uncle Joe's still around. Uncle Joe could be Waleed's other side piece. We don't know. We felt like that, but he's out of the house, so we know Trianne had her little go round. But I do want to see what's gonna happen with Trianne, Teresa, and the new dude Stan that's living together. Considering the mama and the daughter is now sleeping with the same dude, I don't know. You ready, child? Look at you. You know, girl. Hold on, let me put my headphones on. Let me put my headphones on so I can hear you. Hey, James. Hold on, let me put my headphones on. I can't hear you, honey. I can't even hear you. Let me get my headphones together.
Thank you, Miguel.
Hola. How are
What's
you?
going on? Chuck, what you got? Earphones that match like all your outfits or what?
Don't judge me. I had to get a new pair. But yeah, so we are done with Loving Topaz. And for those of you that know that are watching, this is the author of Spirit Boy TV, aka James Colwell. This is the author of the books that I've been reading. For those new people that are in the chat, thank y'all for coming. Thank you for allowing me to read the book.
Yeah. Thank you.
Did you enjoy this the last reading? I know you be in the
I'm sitting
clouds.
over here laughing at you. I was here for pretty much all of it. Pretty much all of it. I think I got here like 9 minutes late, but yeah. Chum, I told you it's your face for me. Chum, I'm sitting there screaming. I was like, oh, this lady.
I can't help it because I'm just like, are you serious? Like with Waleed, when he wait a minute, I'm gonna go back. Not this week. Well, I think it was chapter 8. When he thought he was gonna get Waleed by just going and carrying on, but not letting him finish. But then all of a sudden, Waleed was like, "Oh, I'm gonna get you back." So he's like, "Oh my gosh, now I love you again." This man coming home drunk. And why you mad? Like you still 16 years old. But I think that's what a lot of people are getting hung up at is the fact that he's still a child.
Right. That's the whole confusion of it all. But it happens so often.
Yes.
It happens so often. And the only thing that's like different is that it's a boy. Because it happens to
Yeah.
girls all the time. All the time. Girls always are dating these older guys. And they be taking them through it.
Yeah.
And taking them through it.
But like you said, because it's a boy,
It's
people
what
are looking at it differently.
well,
But
I
it's
don't know that
still,
they're looking at it different because people be mad about their daughters too. They be
of
mad.
course.
Yeah, they be mad because
But
that's really one of the. I told you, a lot of it is people that I know or been encountered with in this whole situation. But I did have a girlfriend that went through a lot of the age difference thing, and the playing and the toying with and all of that.
yeah, it sucks.
It
And I
was
know,
actually it was a girl. It was a girl that went through that playing and toying with this older man.
yeah.
But the mother and the mother's boyfriend dynamic, that was actually a boy. That was a boy
Oh,
in real life that actually happened to. But a lot of the cat and mouse game stuff, that was a girl. So that's why I said
wow.
it's all everything in that first book was all taken from stuff that I've lived around and lived through and just put into a book form and change the names and change some things for y'all to enjoy. But it all happened. Every last piece of it all happened. Now,
Oh
as you move
Lord.
forward, thank you so much, Ms. Britta. After when you move forward now, um, I'll be interested to hear what y'all are really going to say because then that's where a lot of my imagination comes into it, and I just start building the story from what I actually have. So we really going fiction.
Oh Lord. And
Going forward.
I'm just when she was like, "Oh, your brother loves you." I'm like, "Oh my God."
Yeah, it's crunchy, right?
Yes, because it's like he's sleeping with him and y'all don't even know it. And they so happy and they're so excited about it, not knowing
Man,
that they just
man.
brought him right on into the fold. It's just like, oh, here goes your baby. And he pretty much proposed to him without actually saying, "Will you marry me?" When he
Right.
gave him that ring.
Well, back then it wasn't legal. Well, it wasn't legal with no 16-year-old. No way.
No, not at all.
You
Unless you was
sit
in
down, honey.
Georgia. Unless you was in Georgia. Because it's consensual in Georgia to
Yeah.
be 16. Waleed was what, 27?
Mm-hmm.
He was 27, right? Yeah,
They tell
so
you.
Waleed was 27. The mom was in,
She
she was
just a
14
little.
years.
Yeah, she's a,
She was 14 years older than him. Right? Hold on real quick because
she's
it said on the
30.
back of the book. Oh no, the boyfriend, she's 35. Well, no,
Yes.
30. Well, she was, so that don't make him 27. The boyfriend was 5 years her junior, so she was like 30 something. But he was in his 20s, so
Yeah.
he was still too old for
Yeah. Well, she 30. Wait a minute.
35. Wasn't she 35?
Girl, I don't know. You
She
just
was
read. I don't know.
35. Somebody,
Too long, girl. I don't,
they asked. She was 35. Wait a minute. Hold on. She was 32. Yep. Lord,
she's
she was
15 years
32.
older than Topaz.
Yes, she was 32. Anyways, she
It's
was
all a
30.
mess. It's all.
A whole mess.
And what you think about the new boyfriend, baby?
Listen, you talking about Trent or you talking about Stan? Trent,
No, no,
the
not
choir
that.
director.
We'll get to
I'm listen when Trent.
that. We'll get to
Listen,
that.
when he said he saw Trent, the choir director, I already knew. I was like, "Oh, come on!" And when he,
I'm just setting you up, Patty. I was setting you up.
I
I
already
was like, let's
listen.
open these doors, honey, because I knew I wasn't done. But I was right, and I knew I was done. I'm like,
You
here's
sprinkled it.
here we
You,
go.
cause
Well,
I
I
know.
knew that.
I feel like Waleed and Trent gonna get into it. Watch, because nobody knows about Waleed. Don't tell me. Don't even
I'm
blink your
not.
eyes.
I'm not going
Don't
to tell you nothing.
don't smile too hard. Don't blink your eyes. But I know Trent and Waleed probably gonna get into it because nobody knows about Waleed and Topaz. But they still got to keep it on the hush hush. So I feel like Topaz gonna have to have something to kind of cover up. Cause he got to get out there.
Mhm.
He got to get out. I am dead, honey. Don't. But
Well, you got to know how my imagination works. Because
I'm getting there.
I
But
read 22, so you kind of know how my mind works.
look, they say new boyfriend is about to be on. Okay, Lou A, girl, don't. But we ain't gonna. We ain't gonna try to guess, cause then he might blank too hard, and we gonna guess the
I ain't
story.
saying nothing.
I know you ain't saying nothing, but they have a question. Are you planning to write more of these type of books? Great series
Yes, there's more. Y'all
on the
got
way.
three. There's more Topaz stuff coming. There's more books in the series, and yeah, and yeah.
So
Got,
you have another book after Learning Topaz. I know we spoke about another book that you were writing that you said you was going to get done before the end of 2021. I ain't forget.
yeah.
and you on camera saying it, so it needs to be
Yeah.
finished.
Well, you got a lot to go. He
I
just
know,
doesn't
but
have a team. I told you before you get done, before you get to the end of what you got in your hands, he'll be in college.
oh Lord.
So you got a while. You got some reading to do, sister.
So Sexy Sky Doll must have went on and read Losing Topaz. She said she couldn't wait. I thought she did leave me a comment because you know we missed last week.
Well, she waiting for enough for a fourth book. Like, okay, I done passed them up. What you got?
I would have been doing the same thing Topaz was doing too. Oh, Miss Legal, you hot to trot, honey.
Yeah, Topaz went from not knowing nothing about how to maneuver to yeah.
He gonna know what
He's
he
a
doing.
fast learner, honey.
Uh, I want to know about this Mike, honey, because
Hey,
Mike is Mike in this book. Mike. Just say you can say yes or no.
everybody's in there.
Okay, so he done moved on to the other book too.
Everybody's in there and some new people.
Cause he's been very he said he was thinking about him like, oh, I wonder how good he is, but he had to get that out of his mind. So I'm thinking he gonna try to whatever. I'm thinking he gonna do that.
But
Is
she said
there
she's on the third book.
oh but well I thank you for still coming back and listening to the read Sexy Sky Doll. I know she had to move on because she was like, I couldn't wait at all. But y'all make sure y'all get y'all books and continue to read. Where is Anton? Is he up in the clouds? Because you know he said he was gonna be here. Uh-huh. He was doing all
He was,
that pump
you know, he
faking and
was saying
stuff. Where's
something.
Anton? Gail said she read all three of them as well. I know a few people said that they read the books already, but it's still dope, like you said, to hear somebody reading it out loud. But I know Mr. Tim, Uncle Tim had told me about the ACX. I think it's called ACX to do Audible books.
Yeah.
So I got to sign up. I have my EIN number now because of my other business. So I'm going to use that and I'm going to sign up to be a Audible reader. So, just in case you ever decide to,
Right.
I'm here,
I'm looking for,
so.
oh, is she on now?
Is he serious? And he
Trifle.
is in Florida, so we are in the same time zone. Yeah, he had to catch up, but he had a whole 2 weeks to catch up. So he has no excuse. None at all. So he has another week to catch up until we begin
He
losing.
coming, girl. You know he'll be here in a second. But
We at the
if
end.
he ain't done read, child, bye Anton.
I only heard this last chapter and it was good.
Oh wow. Okay. Well, you'll be fine if you go back and read. Then you'll know
Yes,
what all the drama was about.
yeah, go back and listen. Oh, you here now, Anton. You are late. I done read. So make
Oh,
sure you
look
go
at
back and
the
check.
picture, child. Really?
Oh, he done changed the picture. Go back and catch up on the read, Anton. We will be beginning losing Topaz next week, Anton. So I know you got your books by now because you asked James for them 2 weeks ago.
He got them.
Oh, okay. He said he got it.
I
I know.
read the first one. How many did y'all read tonight on the first book? Today was the conclusion.
Yes, we're done with we're concluding. Well, we've concluded loving Topaz. So we'll move on to losing Topaz next week. So, you have any other words before I do my church announcements?
I don't. I think you did a wonderful job. Well, you always do. And
Thank you very
uh,
much.
yeah, girl, check your cash out.
Thank you in advance.
You did great on it. You did great as you always do. But those titles mean something. It's right. What's the name of the book? The next book.
Losing Topaz. Oh
All
my
right. Good night.
gosh.
Good night.
Oh my gosh.
Good
She's gonna
night.
bring the
Thank
picture
you guys
back
for
up.
listening. I appreciate it. And I'll see y'all. Well, I won't see y'all next Monday because I get behind the read. I came in since it was the last read. I came in for the whole thing, but yeah, I get behind the read. But I'll catch y'all in the streets, honey.
Yeah, we'll see you in the streets.
Thank you.
Thank you, James.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, you guys. So for a little church announcements, if you have gotten to this part of the video and you have not subscribed, I mean, why not? Why not subscribe to Almond Brown so you guys can be here for all of the reads we do on Monday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here at the Almond Delights Reading Corner. Next week, we will begin the read of Losing Topaz. Y'all know if I'm not going to be here, I'll try to let y'all know ahead of time, but I'm not going to be on vacation again. So, not yet. So, I should be here next week, next Monday. Also, we do Friday night red light specials every Friday night at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We are back here on the channel where we hold a panel of grown folk talk. And if you have not seen that one, please go back and check out our last red light special that we just did Friday night. It's awesome. Thank you for subscribing, Anton. Thank you everybody for subscribing. Thank you for thumbsing up this video. Also, go follow me on Instagram at instagram.com/AlmondBrown09. If you are an author and you are listening to this and you would like for me to read your book here at the Almond Delights Reading Corner, email me at almondbrown09@gmail.com. And we can go from there with our correspondence on that. We also now have a P.O. box. So if you would like to provide me a book and you're the author of that book and you want to send it, you can send it to my P.O. box, Almond Brown 09. I'll put it on the screen. P.O. box 1058. 1058 Starke, Florida 32091. P.O. box. Y'all see it, child. It's going across the bottom of the screen, honey. There you go. If you would like to send a book, a gift, whatever you want to send, if you got something you want me to review, send it there too. We can do all of that. But yeah, I really enjoyed this read. So if you guys, like I dropped the link, nobody didn't want to come up, we talked to James, I'm gonna let y'all go. I appreciate y'all for joining us tonight. If you're coming here late, please go back and watch the video from the beginning. If you want to listen to it podcast style, go over to my podcast, anchor.fm/AlmondBrown09. It is free to listen, but if you would like to pledge a monthly love offering, you can do so. 99 cents, $4.99, $9.99, whatever. Thank you to those that have already pledged their love offerings over there at my podcast. I appreciate you for doing so. But if nobody else has anything to say, thank you so much to my armor bearer, aka my moderator tonight, Miss Shadia. I don't know if Sephora was here. Shout out to my other moderators. Sephora has a clone, B-Scales 1214 and also D1. I appreciate you guys. Thank y'all for joining me tonight and loving on your girl. I appreciate y'all, and I'm gonna let y'all go. And as I always say, I love you with the love of God, and there is what? Nothing you can do about it. I'll talk to y'all later, honey. Bye, y'all. Thank you all for joining another episode of Almond Delights Reading Corner. I pray that you enjoyed yourself and you're relaxed in your mind, in your body, and in your spirit. Come back and join us again next week as we continue our reading. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. Be blessed and enjoy your evening.